What's up, cinephiles? For this episode, we are going to review South Korea's latest zombie flick, #Alive, directed by Il-hyung, now streaming on Netflix. Now, if you're new to our channel, consider subscribing to us for weekly reviews of movies, TV shows, or even video games. Now, Kevin, what is this movie all about?
Okay, #Alive is another zombie outbreak, and our central protagonist here is Yoo-in playing Oh Jun-woo. He's a gamer who struggles to survive during this zombie outbreak because he finds himself isolated in his apartment. Also joining this cast is Park Shin-hye as Kim Yoo-bin. She's another survivalist tenant who will help him survive this outbreak. Now, Phil, what do you think about this movie?
Before I watched this movie, I had high expectations. South Korea made some of my favorite zombie movies of all time, namely Train to Busan and The Wailing. Now, first, I want to talk about the positives in this movie. The lead actors were both good. Yoo-in, who I know from Burning, which is probably one of my favorite Korean movies ever, was great in the lead role. Also, Park Shin-hye, whom I know from watching Korean dramas more than I'd care to admit. She was also really good in this role. And the concept is very interesting and timely because we are all in quarantine, and this is basically quarantine with zombies. And I have to say that this movie is a very enjoyable watch, but on a surface level. The portrayal of zombies here are still terrifying. The zombies are still like those in Train to Busan. All that contorting, all that running, it's practically the same. But this movie doesn't have much layers to it. Really, nothing new was introduced. We'll discuss that in a while. What's different about this movie compared to the others is there's really not much character development. It's very lacking in that department. Now, Kevin, we've talked before doing this review, so I know what your thoughts are in a way. Before I go into some of my other issues, I'm going to let you go. I want to see you go, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think you've already mentioned Train to Busan and also the Korean series that we've reviewed, which is Kingdom. So I know the capacity of the Koreans when it comes to zombie subgenre. Expectations were set, fair to say. And when it comes to zombie design, yeah, pretty much the same. But one thing that I've noticed is I think they're a little bit slower compared to those in the Train to Busan and zombies from the Kingdom. And they still retain the mental faculties. Like, for example, this zombie was a fireman on his past life. He can also climb, and they still know how to open doors, you know. So, I mean, that's a little bit twist. But when it comes to zombie subgenre, because I've seen so many shows, so many movies, the things that I really look immediately is about the concept and if there's something new to bring to the table, because we got saturated with this movies. Apart from those minor distinctions, you're right, there's nothing really new here. And I've already sensed this on the trailers, but that's not the biggest letdown of the movie. Okay, so there I go. I've already mentioned that I'm not a big fan of this movie. Since this is a movie that tackles about isolation and you are thrust to mostly one character here, I think it's very important to have character development because these are moments of introspection, moments that you can use so that your audience will sympathize to the character. I mean, he generally plays a likable character here, but as brutal as I can be, I have no rooting interest for the character, and I'm not even sure if I like the character. We just know very little about his character. He's just absorbed about gaming, that he's not used to doing simple errands like buying groceries. His parents would leave him notes, as basic as that. So that's the initial impression that you'll get. Yeah, I just felt like this character here is just a stand-in character to represent all the Gen Ys who are so absorbed with social media. So this character, he does his best to survive using his technology. He does this video diaries, which Actually, from the first part, I find it promising. It just lagged on its second part. Then there's another character here. She's more of the survivalist with a can-do attitude. I think she serves more as a romantic interest for our main character. Inherently, there's a likable quality to this character because she's a well-known actress. But again, this one is not really well-fleshed and explored. You won't really compare this to blockbuster movies like Train to Busan because they're going here for a more contained approach. And I get the understated appeal in it, but I don't think that the movie really explored and utilized it to its advantage because again, the introspective moments were not there, and the material for this movie being isolated and doing whatever it takes to survive feels like a filler episode in one of the Walking Dead episodes that I've seen. And stretching that material into a movie length, I don't think it will be more engaging.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything you said. With regards to not caring about the characters, I agree about that. Actually, it doesn't help that this character keeps making boneheaded decisions.
Yeah.
And not just him. Even the character of Park Shin-hye tend to make some really bad decisions too. There are some decisions that they made that it's very improbable that they would have survived that. How can they survive those kinds of situations? I just don't understand. So I was scratching my head. They have so much plot armor, I guess. At the third act, they tried to do something dramatic that I feel like we've seen like 100 times already. Even though they tried to present it as compelling as they can, it just fell flat. I completely agree that it feels like a filler episode of The Walking Dead. I'm so glad you said that. I'm not really entirely gonna hate on this movie on my end because overall, I think that it's still an enjoyable watch. But I don't think that I would watch this movie again. But I had a great time.
Yeah, but you know, to be fair, I get what the appeal of this movie is because we are all holed up in our homes, hashtag pandemic, and this one feels resonant more than ever. I don't know, there's something about the pandemic where the zombie shows and the zombie movies seem to be popular. Such an irony. But going back to that third act, I definitely agree that's the weakest part of the movie. Not only because they tried to do something dramatic in there which fell flat, but there's a character that was introduced late in the game, and I felt like that character was just introduced to make a proper villain out of the movie, which it almost feels like an afterthought. He doesn't have any impact on the grand scheme of things. How it ended, it just feels so abrupt, like suddenly there's a helicopter out of nowhere, like everything just feels so convenient. The movie has a contained approach, which eventually it broke down and went to a formulaic approach, you know, the zombie hordes. If that's the differentiating factor from the big blockbuster movies, then suddenly it loses that because it's eventually resorted into formula. This is something you can watch if you have that hunger for an appetite for the zombie movies, but it just came to a point that I've seen so many that it takes more than just concept and thrills to get me excited. But when it comes to makeup, they really did a good job on that. But I guess that's already a given.
The ending part was a blast for me. Not because what happened at the ending part was awesome, but because it was so predictable.
Yeah.
I predicted that final sequence entirely, and I was having so much fun while watching it because I'm like, damn, I'm right. And well, I really have nothing more to say about this movie. It's just a generic zombie movie for me. This is a South Korean made zombie film, and like I said at the beginning of this video, some of the best zombie flicks that I've ever seen came from Korea. Some of the most layered films that I've seen came from Korea, and this movie just felt very flat. There's really not much going on, not much development. I'm going to give this movie 3 out of 5 stars.
I kept coming back to Train to Busan because that has a huge ensemble cast and you really genuinely cared about all of those characters here. Maybe say from that corporate guy who's really evil to the core. But here, it's just unfortunate that you have 2 main characters and you didn't really felt so much about them, and they're trying to do some romantic subplot in here, which I don't know, it didn't really worked on me. When it comes to zombie shows, we rarely see contained stories taken into the movie length, but this one, I just have to say that I was just bored. My heart rate didn't really rise, which is surprising because I'm the one who's easily caught by these jump scares, and I did not. So what am I going for? I'm going to give this one a 2 out of 5.
And that's it for our review of #Alive. If you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel.
Also, let us know what you think in the comment sections. Thank you so much for watching. Until then, see you on the next one.
Bye bye, guys.